My name is Fredrik. I work with the Dublin team, mainly focusing on managing finance, CPG, and education advertisers. Did anyone see me or hear me earlier today? Well, Paul, excuse me, but you'll hear the same jokes again. Well, the agenda for today, as I see it, and I hope it'll follow through, is that we'll take a look at what conversion tracking actually allows you to do within Adwords. We'll have a quick look at Conversion Optimizer, but we won't dwell on that for too long. Then we'll jump into the juicy bits, which is multi-channel attribution. And following that, we'll look at what can be done with campaign experiments. So, as it says, attributing and experimenting. Now, most of you probably are familiar with conversion tracking. Is there anyone who hasn't implemented it or isn't using conversion tracking data? All right, cool. Many advertisers that I chat to, they follow up on their online conversions and go to for example, their online conversions go to a call center, and then from there they actually convert to revenue for that advertiser. So when it comes to conversion tracking, the difficult question I usually ask them is, what is the true value of a lead? Now that's something that many advertisers don't really know how to answer straight away, and they have to look into it. And it's something that I recommend you ask your advertisers as well. Because the CPA data we get and work with, it's very valuable. It sets targets, and it also then allows us to optimize towards a specific result, and hopefully then even decrease the CPA target. The main interesting bit with this is, of course, then the data that we get, as I said. Now, conversion as such can be pretty much anything. So we're looking at signups, registrations, purchases, anything. Even time spent on site, that can be a good conversion for some advertisers. And we then need to make sure that we're following that and being able to help the advertisers improve their results. Now, search funnels, are they familiar to everyone? All right, cool. I saw a few nodding heads here. So what data do you actually look for within the search funnels? Bounce rate, drop off, yeah. Do you go as far as to look at a complete purchase cycle, as in assisted conversions and so on, even assisted impressions? No? Cool. All right, then I have something new to show you. Yeah, so when we talk about attribution, we often get to a conversation about branding, and in the keyword space, we talk about what's the value of having your branded keywords in there. Obviously, there's a lot you need to do with your branded keywords. Just make sure that you're always there when someone's looking for you, and also that you deliver a specific message with it. But going beyond that, people or your clients are most likely at some point going to say to you that they come through organic search results. Fair enough, they might do it, but it's an assisted impression if that leads to a conversion. It's one more place where they can communicate with their customers or prospects, and it's one place where they can also show their product offering and try to upsell. So it's quite important to actually look at all this data and show it to your advertisers as you build your relationship. Now, I used to do acquisition for Google. I did it for 2 years, and I never really got the chance to dig in deep with the companies I brought on board, because I only managed them for 3 months, and then I put them in a new service channel. There are basically 2 moments that I really enjoyed in that sales process. One was whenever they said yes to anything, and the other one was when they said really, and then obviously you'd have to attribute a lot of value to the tone of voice. But yeah, like the things you find in here, they're actually, it's data that they often sit on, but they don't know they have. So present it to them and discuss what it actually means for their business. Now, I have a few slides from the search funnel, and then later on we'll come back to the multi-channel funnel and see what it looks like in analytics. But if we look at just the search, and this is only AdWords traffic. Now, I've picked out a couple of screenshots from an account so you can see what the data is. But as you can see there, this is following a last click attribution model. So it says that there's been 335 last click conversions coming through AdWords. The value has been 3,170, and this is where it gets interesting. Click-assisted conversions, 91. So it's been a part of these conversions. And then the click-assisted conversion value, it's an additional 1,000. So if you look at the ratio between click-assisted conversions and last-click conversions here, you'll actually see that a fourth of them is or are assisted. When you take this to the client, obviously you'll need to prepare more for actually showing them where it's coming from and what's happening, and that way you'll be able to then upsell them and wow them. Those wow moments, they're really good. So do you guys actually ask for analytics access from your clients? Perfect. Are the accounts often linked? Yes and no. So that I would say is one thing you should strive for, to make sure that, first of all, they have an analytics account, and then that the two are linked. Because that will give you the full picture, and we'll come to it in a little bit after a quick look at Conversion Optimizer. But looking still at the search funnels, which are in AdWords, where you don't need analytics, there's another really interesting thing here, which is time lag. So looking at how long does it take from the first interaction to an actual conversion. Now, the data speaks pretty clearly here. Everything, the majority happens on the first day. So it's quite, for this particular advertiser, the conversion time is very quick. But something jumped out at me from here as well. So I had a look at, first of all, what's happening. You can segment it by first impression, first click, and last click. Looking at first impressions, I noticed something very interesting with 3 to 4 days. Now, granted, this sample is quite small, so you can't draw any final conclusions. But this is something you can show to your advertisers. Just by looking at the value and the conversions, I have the numbers here, I need to make sure I get this right. So the approximate value per order value on first day conversions were about 9. The average order value on orders that came through 3 to 4 days after the first impressions were actually 14. So that's a 55% increase on value. That's very interesting to show to them. And who wouldn't want orders that are 55% more valuable? And there are obviously then ways that you can expedite this. I mean, implementing remarketing and things like that, looking at how you've structured your search queries. Everything is related to how you can expedite this process. But it is worthwhile planning from the beginning to make sure that whatever comes in 3 to 4 days after the first impression is actually as valuable as it can be. Now, one thing you should know about this is that the 12 days plus, that obviously looks good because it's from 12 days onwards to 30. So that's why it always tends to look better than the other options. But just dig into that, because there might be something very interesting in there as well. So now we know that there are orders that seem to be more valuable than the first day orders. So the question is then, how can we actually make sure that we get those? And when you're trying to grow your business, you of course want to bring in as many customers as you want. So Conversion Optimizer It's a useful tool for you guys because it will actually help you cut down on admin time that you need to spend in the account. It doesn't mean that you can release it completely. You'll obviously have to keep on optimizing it and make sure that nothing goes badly wrong and CPAs get completely out of hand, because it is working on past data. But it is a good tool that we've had good results with. And as it does that, then obviously you can go get those additional yeses from new prospects. The setup is also very straightforward, as I'm sure most of you know or have seen. So it's basically in the account settings, you just go in and you opt in for focus on conversion, so conversion optimizer. This is from my own account, so that means that I haven't had 30 conversions in 30 days. All right. Moving on. So that's the spot where you need to click. The beauty of it is that we also have the same tool for the display network. Now that's quite new, and from what I've seen, it hasn't been implemented a lot, but it works in the same way. The difference here is that the tool, it requires a bit more ice at the bottom of your stomachs to make sure that it gets to run for 30 days at least, in order for it to have time to find the places where you get your conversions and drive down the CPA. But I think the results here speak for themselves. I mean, if you look at that is good. A 70% increase in conversions and a 30% drop in CPA. If you can give that performance to your advertisers, you'll get more budget from them, and you'll have a really, really good friend in them. And this obviously is for a home improvement company, but as I mentioned earlier today as well, I've had the chance to work quite closely with the sales director in the German-speaking markets and for finance. And he says that their customers, they're now focusing on doing display purely for performance. So when people say that display is only for branding and nothing else, then I think this example proves them wrong. I think what's happening in the German market is proving them wrong, but it does take time and optimization, and they need to be willing to go for it big. Are there any questions so far? Good. So, the cherry on top maybe, multi-channel attribution. Have you guys been digging into this before? Right. So the main difference here is that as with AdWords and analytics in general, I mean, AdWords will always show you what's happening with the campaigns, the traffic there, while analytics will show you what's happening with the traffic on your site. So it can be external, internal, and that's why it's so valuable to connect the two and be able to present a full funnel to your advertisers. Now, getting the data from analytics, it's extremely simple. So it's basically ready-made for you. In the drop-down menus on the left-hand side, you'll find conversions. Under conversions, you'll then get goals, e-commerce, and multi-channel funnels. And as you can see, the data here is more or less the same. Part of which why I chose the examples from search funnels, and example from this is because these are from live accounts, so I can show you everything that's happening. But this is a very good representation of what tends to happen when you look at a full funnel. Analytics is going to default to having showing you 2 interactions or more, and that's why it starts with 2 paid clicks. Mostly, it will happen with 1. But it's interesting to see that it's been paid search twice that has led to a conversion. And then it's been paid search and direct that has led to a conversion. And only then has it been 2 direct clicks, direct visitors. So this in itself already shows them that they need to be visible in search, because that's where their traffic is coming from, and that's where conversions are coming from. Going down even further, you'll start to see display as well. So obviously display hasn't been performing too well here, because it hasn't brought them the visitors that tend to convert quickly. It's only 10th position to display clicks. And the first interaction is at A. So with that data already, I mean, the more you can educate your advertisers on that, the better. And here we get to the beauty of things. I mean, where you can actually look at what is the value of having someone click on you once or see your ad and then no matter what happens convert in the end, versus if they click once and get the click and convert. Because with the last interaction, which is the option to the left, that's where we attribute the conversion or the click that led directly to the conversion to one of these channels. And then linear is where we give all steps equal value. And then the first interaction is where we give 100% value to the first click. And all advertisers need to figure this out for themselves. What is the correct model for them? And then they'll be able to create their own samples as well. So what happens with this is, imagine a situation where there's a visitor to your site who clicks on a search ad, leaves, comes back 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, comes in through a display ad, and leaves again, and 2 days later comes in through an email ad. Now that it's going to be difficult to say which one of them was actually the one that triggered the conversion, but we know that they were all involved. So as we see here in this example, paid search has performed the best across all of them. Sorry, that's not quite true. Linear has brought in the most value on the first option. But then if we go all the way back to the third column and look at the change in conversions, now that's a linear model and a first interaction model compared to the last click model separately. And interesting things start showing up. So as we see here, conversions on a first interaction model would actually have increased by 9% through search. So we see that that's where things tend to start. So again, need to be present on search. But that's not the only thing that actually stood out. Also saw this, direct traffic. Now, the fact that the value is dropping in a linear model, I don't know really what to make of that, to be honest. Depends on the advertiser and their site and what they're doing outside of their AdWords advertising online activities. The worrying thing is here that they would lose a fifth of their conversions based on this if they only had direct traffic. So that to me says quite clearly that one problem is that people don't know how to come or why to come or to their site or who they are in general. So branding is needed. And then if you look at the display channel here, fourth position, then you'll see that in the first interaction, that's actually increasing impressions again by 6% almost. So that is a very valuable part. Is all of this making sense to you guys, or do you think I'm just like breathing hot air here? Who said that? Okay. So we get to experiments. Now, with the insights we've gotten so far is that, for example, could be we see that paid search, as in the previous example, paid search has been performing extremely well on first click attribution modeling, and branding, the display network has been working quite well on the first click as well. So if we choose that we want to see what will actually happen in our accounts if we were to make changes according to those observations, then we could run an experiment. Are you guys familiar with these? Okay, good. So we'll go through first the general possibilities with it, and then we'll quickly look at how to set it up, because it's quick and dirty, so to speak. Right, I had it the other way around. So setting up an experiment is it's done again through your campaigns. Now the important thing to notice with this is that you actually won't be affecting the campaign as it stands now. Whatever changes you choose to make are only going to affect the experiment. So quality score will remain the same, which is an extremely good thing if you have a very, very sensitive advertiser to CPA, for example. So you basically just run through these steps to set up the experiment. And the first, as with setting up a campaign, is just to name the experiment somehow logically so that you'll be able to come back to it quickly. And then, here's where you get control of your experiment. You actually choose how much of the traffic that comes in through these ads are going to come in with the change you're going to make, and how many % are going to come in through the old bids and text ads and so on. What that means is basically how long it'll take for you to get statistically significant data on what works and what doesn't. But it's something you need to balance with the risk of the experiment costing a lot. So if you bring in 100% through the experiment, it's basically like making the change to your actual campaign. If you run it through 50-50, which it defaults to, then that's quite a safe way to do it. And if you drop it from here, it's most likely going to take longer for you to get those results that you're looking for. So again, in the sales process, in the pitch of experiments, you need to discuss this with your advertisers as well, and get them on board with it first of all, because it would be a shame to actually get them on the experiment and they, for some reason, think that things are going really badly and they want to stop the experiment, and then the key results would have been a week or 2 weeks from today. All right. So the setup is very straightforward, and that's actually it. That is setting up the experiment. Then we get to what we're experimenting with. So we're looking at from analytics we can see or AdWords as well, what traffic is bringing in, or what keywords are bringing in traffic, or what ads are bringing in traffic. So in this case, I've chosen to play with ads. And I want to test what would happen if I change my call to action. So I go into the campaign, as I normally would, choose the ad group where I want to run the test, and I create an ad. Then I choose ad as experiment only ad. That means that this ad will only be chosen when the system decides that for this query we're serving one of your experiments. You don't actually have that control yourself of when it comes up. AdWords is going to do it for you on a 50-50 basis, and the results will follow. So it's very easy to do that as well. And the principle is exactly the same for keywords. You add them the way you would add keywords as always, and then just choose add as experiment only ads or keywords. The only difference is that you actually have to go into the ad group first and segment it by experiments. Now, a show of hands, how many guys actually of you guys segment the results you have in AdWords? Okay, not very many. Guys or dudes, as they say here. You're missing out on a wealth of opportunity here. I should have screenshotted it, but I didn't. One thing I always look at is top versus other. That's very, very interesting, because what you'll be able to show your clients is that usually, in my experience, top will always outperform other by far, and it's often cheaper as well. As in, even though you bid higher, your quality score is going to be higher, and the price is going to be cheaper. So the conversions they get that way are most likely going to be more valuable to them. And that's again, one of those wow moments where you just show them a piece of paper and they thank you and ask you how much budget you need, more or less, in an ideal world. Hasn't happened to me yet, but I'm still young. So, for experiments, in Adwords, you just choose segments, from segments, experiment, and that's when these options will open up for you. And the keyword bid that you want to change, you just enter it in there and it'll run. So as you see, that's for the conversion, and then it still states the control group bid. There's the gray arrows there as well, which are actually an indication of results. So when the experiment is running, those arrows are either going to start heading north or south, preferably north. And what you'll see is that it'll start with one arrow when it indicates that there's 95% chance that it was your experiment and not by chance that it is outperforming. It's going to be 2 arrows when it's 99%, and it's going to be 3 arrows when it's 99.9. So you definitely get good actionable results from there that are easy to implement. Oh yeah, because I've been flying through this. All right, so I think we're about to finish.